Marcia, it's so good to have you back on again.
Thank you, ladies, for having me back. It was a pleasure last time. Can't wait to do it again.
I know I always learn so much from you every time we talk. So let's talk about customer service and private practice. I feel like this is something that you have really honed in on and have done such a great job with. Even though I don't work in your practice, you're always really good about posting your Google reviews. So what does that mean to you?
Okay, so when I was building my brand, I knew the importance of everything being aesthetically pleasing, right? Like that was what my pitch was to attract clients. But I think it's a lot deeper than that, that we have to dig for private practitioners that are starting out or they're starting to get settled, they're getting their clients in, but then what happens? Like, what are they offering behind their brand? So I always say it's one thing to build a brand and it's another not to be able to back it, right? So if you do all these pretty things, the aesthetically pleasing feeds, the getting the Google reviews, but we need to be able to be producing high quality care. But not only the clinical part, we also be like in the admin side, we need to be really showing people that customer service matters. And we all think of like customer service when we go into a restaurant, when we go into a nice hotel, but there's no difference. We are a business and we need to operate like one. And so I think from the back end, when I tell people that they need to have a business mindset and a clinical mindset, we really need to shift business mindset to encompass customer service and how we are addressing our storefronts from a digital storefront, whether you're a clinic space, and then the word of mouth referral in our community. So there's a lot to dig into that I'm excited for, but customer service is very important in maintaining clientele and getting word of mouth referrals in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine if you're providing good service within your private practice that's like the thing that people are going to be sharing, not only the impact that you're making with their child, but just also like how comfortable you made them feel throughout the process too.
Yes, and the intake. So I think this might be our next question.
Yeah, we would love to know what some actionable strategies that people can take to
Yes.
help enhance their service skills, their customer service skills. So if you want to dive into that, that would be awesome.
Perfect. Okay, guys. So everybody is going to come calling you with a problem. So we should be problem solvers. Okay. Not everyone is going to be your client. They're not going to be your ideal client. They may not be able to afford you. They may not be able to commit to the services right away. But what we need to do on our back end for customer service is solve their problem. And so something that has been very successful for me when a person, either a future possible referral, reaches out either online or they call, I'm going to solve that problem. And the actionable strategies that you guys can take and walk away with today are a couple of things. First thing, you need to educate parents on what their rights are for free. If a parent is calling for a late talker, you better be telling them about the ECI program in your state. If a parent is calling with a 3 to 5 year old, you better be informing them that there's a child find or whatever your preschool services in your state. And if you have a school aged person that is like, my child can't say their R's, well, do you know that you have a speech therapist on campus in a public school setting? That is your right. So those are the three avenues that we need to be providing, not only just like, hey, yeah, go call, but actually going to what school district are you in? What zip code are you in? Can I have your email address? I'm going to send you the child find because us moms today, as I speak, as I just threw a Barbie party yesterday after seeing 7 clients, like it is just so much on our mom mental load right now. So for working moms, and our ideal clients are working, most likely 90% of them are working moms. Let's make things easier because if we provide this information to them, that's going to take a matter of minutes for us because we're so tech savvy with what we have available to us, then they're going to have a positive experience with you, even if they don't hire you. And then do you want to know what that translates to? Word of mouth referral. So I had a specific situation where a mom called me from a Facebook group. I had, more than 5 other moms respond that I was the go-to practice. She can help you, right? But I was not. She was not in my area. We did not have staffing. I can't help you personally, but I'm going to ensure that you know who can help you. So number 1, here's our free options. And then number 2 is to always, always have a provider therapy list on your PDF. You can make it in Canva, have it ongoing. Everyone that you have vetted is who needs to be going on that list, right? Because now we have a solution. you came to me for speech. I can't be your speech therapist here, but X, Y, and Z can. And so I really think that some people are either delegating intake to maybe somebody that they're not training well enough to know the ins and outs of speech therapy. And so that is another actual strategy. If you are hiring someone that is not a speech therapist, you need to be educating them on the things that I just said.
Yeah, 100%. I'm so glad you brought all of that up. And I feel like those are such big ethical considerations when running a private practice too. And you would be surprised, which you're probably not, but the amount of families that I've run into that have not been given this information, that have been told that they can't be seen, but have not been given a referral list. But I like your idea of like having everything kind of like in writing, like as something that you can present to the parents, because it's possible that they were given this information, but they weren't ready to receive that information verbally. So I think anybody who's listening to this, take what Marcia's saying, make sure that you're applying that in your practice. And if you do have somebody that works for you that is not a speech language pathologist, you're going to have a handout in writing that they can present to parents and you can present to families as well. So
Yes,
I love those tips.
to help systemize your intake, just that experience. Like, and I also always, I don't recommend that people offering these free consultations or, and I think that the more I'm in business, parents misconstrue like what that entails. And so I think if you just have your contact information available, parents are going to call you with questions like, and that's every business if we're going to do business. But the other thing about customer service is that your intake system needs to be efficient, because I just tried to order custom cookies for my daughter's birthday party. And the first cookie lady that was a word of mouth referral was not efficient, and she lost my business. I was like, sorry, I need cookies. You're not it. I'm going to move on to the next one. And that's the same thing. We're no different than any other business. So I really, I guess, want speech therapists that are owning private practices and switching their mindsets to really understand how important customer service at that intake process is.
Are there any
What are your
tools or
recommendations for speech therapists who have a private practice on the side and already have so many things on their plate? They might even have a family too. How do they balance having a job, like starting a private practice, and then doing all of these really important things as well?
Oh, yes. I do have a lot of my coaching clients that I do offer coaching clients. I help them automate their intake system, and I help it to be mobile. If you're a mobile practice, if you're at a school, you need to have your ability to say yes or no for staffing and all of this information readily accessible. And so you need to establish an intake system that can both be on your desktop at home, on your phone, all of whether it be the provider therapy list, is it your intake forms, is it what your staffing guidelines are, like how many hours, if you ask a therapist, if you do have a team, that they have to give you a yes or a no. Because again, that's customer service. You're not leaving people hanging. We're saying yes or no. You're sending them away, or you know that you're going to staff them. And I think that efficiency and that boundary needs to be set from the jump with your team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have positive experiences, and then they go tell more people about how efficient and streamlined this practice is compared to X, Y, and Z down the road that said, oh no, I'm going to have to pay X, Y, and this amount, but they didn't even run a benefits check or ask me all these questions, or they didn't tell me I could do that. And so we really want to set ourselves out to differentiate amongst maybe some bigger practices, because you're trying to sell your skill set, but like, how do you really stand out? And again, that's important when like the community awards and everything, like everyone has positive things to say about you, and just establishing good relationships everywhere. You never know who's going to be a customer. So you're like walking around with your brand, which is customer service.
Do you have any examples of a tool that you found indispensable in helping you streamline these processes?
Templates on my Gmail email. So obviously I'm an elder millennial. I don't know if I qualify for that, but I'm around in this 40 bend, and I didn't even have an Apple computer when I first started my practice. So like Gmail alone was overwhelming. So once you figure it out, like making sure that you have, if you're on a wait list or your referrals, like all of this needs to be on a template in your Gmail like suite.
That's a
Real
good recommendation. Yeah, definitely. And I liked a lot of the things that you said about how pretty much you can encounter somebody anywhere and you're kind of carrying your brand with you. And I think it's a pretty pretty well-known quote that like people won't always remember what you say, but they'll remember how you make them feel. So is there anything that you've really tried to implement in your process or in your customer service that helps people no matter if they're coming to you and they're going to stay and receive services or you're referring them out, like making sure that everyone leaves feeling like you cared about them?
Yes, I mean, like, that's my authentic self. And so, like, if you call, you're gonna get me. Like, I'm not trying to be anybody I'm not. And so being authentically who I am and being very careful with who I allow to work in my business has been very successful because not only is like, oh, they don't just want me anymore. They want my whole brand. They want my whole practice because everybody is delivering the same amount of customer service. And customer service also includes like if your parents don't know what their child is working on in speech, then we better take a step back. Okay. Because that parent should be able to walk down the road and be like, oh, we're getting speech at Susie's Speech and we're working on ours. But if they don't know what they're working on, then again, that's a space in your customer service that you need to talk to your therapist that carry over. Even if the parent is not at that preschool or that daycare, they need to know what you are working on in speech for that home program ethically by our standards. But that's also important in customer service. It's a huge other complaint why people come to us from, larger clinics. They're like, well, they whisk my kid back and then they bring him up and move on to the next one. So setting yourself apart with the intake customer services and the quality of home programs is really important and has been really beneficial for us.
I love that. So, what is the correlation between customer service and a private practices brand?
Okay, so again, these Facebook moms groups are real, you guys. And anybody that has a voice is going to take to the internet in the world that we live in. Like, let's be really honest. And so, if you're building this brand and it's so good and like you're winning awards, but then you have customers that are upset with whether they called you and you were like, I'm full, I can't help you. Like, poof, be gone. And so it's standing behind your brand and doing that customer service component that will make them feel, oh, well, they didn't even treat my child, but I was treated so well as a human. And so that's really the combination that we want to be the best and we want to treat you guys the best because we can relate to what you're going through and to set yourself apart from people that may not have that brand presence in their community and let alone the customer service.
Did you ever have any like bad experiences with clients that kind of brought you to this point? Or is just this always been like your
I
motto?
mean, I've fired clients. And so, yeah. And that's why, I'm a master of boundaries. And so I fired a client at intake once before because I do a benefits check prior to sending any of our therapists out to see the child. And she was arguing with me about what I was going to charge her. And I said, ma'am, what you're not going to do is tell me what I'm going to charge you. So I think that we're not going to be a good fit here, but I really do want your child to get help. So I recommend you reaching out to X, Y, and Z. And so still maintaining that customer service. Or like one time, we were not a good fit. A grandmother interrupted me very rudely, and I walked out and discharged that family. But you know what? I didn't charge them for that day because I didn't want them to run to Google, give me a 1-star review for whatever it is, because I still want to maintain that high customer service. And when you don't like something at a restaurant, you kindly ask that they take it back. I'm not a plate returner, but whatever. I know there's people out there that would return it. I would just like move it aside, but they move it back. And just so you still have a good experience, it's the same thing for us. Just because we're not in the like service industry as far as food, we're still service providers. And so that's how I handle it in a mature way to not get somebody upset with me. But yeah, or you would give them something like, I'll comp you that, or you don't have to pay for this or something. You're going to go again out of your way to assure that there's no hard feelings. But those are like, I've only fired 3 clients. They usually don't make it that far. If I'm like, yeah, I don't think we're the best fit. We don't have staffing or availability at this time, but let me steer you in the right place.
I love that. I feel like I don't know if you and I spoke about this before, but one of my friends who's had her private practice for years now gave me such good advice and I have been implementing it ever since. She said that like she'll flat out tell the new client that the first 3 sessions are kind of like getting to know you and seeing if it's a good match. You're still charging for those sessions, but after the 3rd session, you'll reconvene and see if it's like a good match for both. And it has worked so well. Let me tell
Well,
you, because I haven't had to fire anybody. I just like will, I'll not come up with an excuse, but kind of say like, okay, this is like the third session. I've noticed this. And then, yeah, then I refer them to somebody else or kind of find like a better fit for them. But it's been really awesome.
yes, I have definitely done a meet and greet session because I have some parents that have been burned. But obviously I'm very confident in my clinical skills and and my therapist's clinical skills. So I'm like, well, I'll just swing by and meet you real quick. Okay. And so then I go in and I'm like, da 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 da. And then they're like, oh, okay. And so, that exact client has been with us for over 2 years now and singing our praises because again, that customer service is of willing to go. It was like a 10-minute meet or greet. But I actually just had another one that I charged for the in-home consult and they didn't pay. So now you're never going to be my client because you didn't pay for my consult. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to chase you after whatever small amount of dollars. I'm just not allowing you to come back for a second try. And so it's all about analyzing those behaviors. But yeah, there have been things that I have seen that I've still been able to repair and keep my good, strong customer service skills on, even though I'm like, called one, wrong one.
Yeah.
Stay professional.
Well, it's hard when like I'm a people pleaser. And so I want, like you said, I want to help everybody. I want to solve everybody's problems. So I feel like that 3 session is really good for helping me like,
People pleasers.
yeah, think about what I need, what I really can do realistically. I just had a client who lived far from me, like 40 minutes, and I really wanted to help them. The mom cried on the first 2 sessions. And by the third, I was like, okay, I cannot do this and pick up my daughter in time for school. Like, I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know why I said
Learn
yes.
that. And it's so great when you become a business owner, what you learn about yourself, like what
Yeah.
your strengths and what you're not good at and what you possibly could delegate.
Right.
Like somebody that has boundaries and intake. And I do see some of these new VAs are speech therapists, which I really like because then they can even be doing those consults on the phone, like with parents' concerns. But
True.
yeah, I love this trial and error for people pleasers. However, I always tell everyone that we got to switch over people pleasing, move on to, our boundaries and just implementing strong customer service. Doesn't mean we have to please, but we can be respected.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I wish I could channel your confidence and
None, guys. That's always been, obviously, that's my strength. That's why I really do. People are like, how do you wear all the hats or whatever? I'm like, I love intake. I love billing. Like, this is my jam. It's, I don't do bookkeeping, so I delegate my bookkeeper. But as far as like customer service and intake and admin, like this is something I love. I love to play secretary, and I didn't realize how naturally good at it I was going to be once I transitioned to private practice. So if you are out there and you're over there people pleasing and saying you're going to drive 40 minutes for a client, we need to reevaluate that and see whether we can delegate there or internally work on how can I maintain my customer service, but say no and
That's
be helpful. And we
Mhm.
send out all those, and it's not time consuming because we need to be efficient. And that's another strength of mine is my efficiency because I've created tools and systematized my practice to ensure that I have all of my therapy providers checklist, my automations to be able to send to help them.
Yeah, I like that to try to make everything great for them and for you yourself as a business owner.
Yes.
So, when you do have to refer out to somebody else, what are your best tips to ensure customer service? How do you, vet these new people that you have on your list? Make sure that it's reflecting well on you too. You want to maintain a high standard of service. And when you're directing those to other people, sometimes that's out of your control. So,
I
what
love
do you
that.
do? How do
I
you
love this question.
handle
Okay.
that?
Okay, so as the modern mom, remember, like I'm the ideal client. What I would do, I'm going to vet those Google reviews, okay, because they matter. If people took it time to write a review, they have something to say. Vet the Google reviews, and then these Facebook moms groups are going to say whether they like somebody or if they don't like somebody. And then to ensure that there's no upcoding going on. This is actually a kind of situation I'm dealing with right now is like when therapists are inaccurately billing or unethically billing by putting 2 codes or 3 codes or upcoding, and it happens in bigger like not therapy factories, bigger clinics. And so make sure that you know what's going on behind the scenes. And you can even ask clients when they're coming over from places, what didn't you like about that there? like practice? What happened? Was there something that, do you want to share? Because parents will then just like tell you everything. And that's why I'm like, give me all the tea, because I need to know that they do not deserve a spot on my referral provider list. And I obviously love to support anybody that supports me with like my coaching clients, or whether they're just starting out solo practitioners. Am I going to be doing my due diligence with like running through, like, are they a GLP provider? Are we servicing RSN? You know what I mean? To make sure that I'm sending exactly the right type of client to the right type of provider for what their specialty is. And then make sure that there's like, just when you go, maybe even meet them. And so we like tomorrow we have a provider meetup. I don't know if everybody has provider meetups, but it's really good for you to establish rapport with someone that you're going to refer to. Because if you're having difficulties establishing rapport with a provider, then how is the other modern mom that just you sent them their way is going to establish rapport? So I think that in-person establishing rapport is important as well for us to be evaluating other therapists.
Those are really great tips. I don't know if I'm sure there are other provider meetups. Do
Oh,
you
yeah.
keep a database with these people? Is it a handout? Will you like refer one person at a time, multiple people at a time? How do you try to match up like the family to the therapist?
That's a great question. So when you create your provider therapy, I literally put what insurances they accept and what areas they serve. And so like the areas of town they serve, what insurances they accept, like if they're in home or in clinic, private pay insurance, and then if they're accepting new clients. And so like that's where I basically want to be like the Google database for parents that don't know anything about speech therapy. Like, oh, if you need a GLP, you need to go to Rachel, or if you need AV therapy, you need to go to X, Y, and Z, and so like you're literally just creating them a roadmap of providers to save them time, because that's the goal, to solve their problem and save them their time is like my full circle customer service moment.
Those are great tips. I feel like if people can keep those two things in mind, it's like always kind of checking yourself. Like, am I saving this person time? And am I helping solve their problem?
Yes.
Or pointing them in the direction where the problem can be solved, right?
Yes.
I love it. Marsha, you're the best. So recently I posted about this because I am working with a family now who had been with a therapist for like over a year. And the therapist told the family that they didn't know any other SLPs. And I'm like, I know this therapist. And the family had to find a second therapist because that one therapist can only offer one day. And that other therapist said, I know this therapist too. So it was very bizarre. And that's where I went on my soapbox on social media saying, like, you need to have a referral list. But I did have somebody talk or write me back who's in a very remote area in Oregon. And she said, we really don't have any other practice or therapists. So what would your advice be to this person? Because I was like, I don't, and I'm going online and searching, but what do you think?
Well, I understand remote, but then we think, what is our solution to solve that problem? Virtual. So you better go find all the virtual women that are looking for virtual clients, and that's an easy fix if you just go on your Facebook, like private practice group page, right? Like, so we have a Texas one. And if you don't have one, then you need to start one, right? And that's where a lot of referral placements go. So my automatic would be like, okay, hey guys, I just got this referral. I need help because I don't know where to send them. They're in Oregon and nobody lives around there. Well, then we need virtual in Oregon, this zip code, and you can post it. So that, again, going that extra step and not just saying, oh, I don't know anybody else. Have a good day. They're going to be like, that lady was not helpful and that was a waste of my time. You just never want that to happen, to be able to build a strong brand and footprint in your community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't realize like all of this relationship marketing and building my brand until recently. I walked by the director of my daughter's preschool that I have a great relationship with. And I was like, she said something, she's like, oh, people only have good things to say about you guys, right? So like my mission this is what I want, right? So the teachers will now that work in my daughter's school that have never like had a client of their own, like a child that I've treated or my therapists have, but they're like, oh, go to pediatric speech therapists, go to Marcia, like, and they'll be tagging me because I've established their trust in the community that I'm doing a job and doing it well. And so again, that's customer service too, because I don't need to be engaging in small talk with the teachers that I don't even have a client in, but that's just a part of business. And
For sure.
anywhere, honestly, like, and building rapport with people that, even if anyone's listening to this and they haven't started their private practice, make sure you're establishing good working relationships with where you're working now, because this community is small. And once you get out of your full-time job and you try to start a practice, you never know what's going to happen. Like, my boss from my old health company now wants me to be an affiliate for their CEO courses because they had such a positive experience with me when I worked for them full-time. So all of those relationships matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're like the queen of relationships, and hopefully everyone who is listening to this can take some of these little nuggets that you've given away. Is there any last piece of advice that you'd want to share with anyone listening to this?
You can do it. Yeah, like, literally, you can do it. Looking back, it's just like amazing that I had that fear of like failure. And when I first started, like, what if I don't get one client? Like, I'm too prideful to admit that I'm going to fail at something. Right. But I'm so grateful that I went into it scared and fearful. So even if you're feeling fearful and analysis paralysis and imposter syndrome, like, working through it, pushing through it, you got this.
Well, and you didn't start that long ago, right, Marcia? When did you start your practice?
I launched my website 3 years ago in January.
There you go, everybody. You
Well,
can
we
do
can all channel a
as
little bit
Marcia
of
said.
Marsha.
Yes, do it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I think we might be seeing you at SLP Creative Con again,
I
right?
think we will.
So stay tuned for that as well. And if you didn't hear Marsha's course from the past, she was helping us learn more about like branding. So this is like the next step to that. And it should be a really exciting conversation at the upcoming SLP Creative Con too.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me, ladies, and you have a great day.
All right, you too.
Good to see you.